Jeppy, and I'd like to welcome you to Jeppy's Entertainment Museum. In 1974, I quit my job as a letter carrier at the U.S. Postal Service and opened a small comic book store in the basement of a TV repair shop. Little did I realize that from that humble beginning would grow this incredible pop culture collection you see here today. At the center of that collection is the comic character, the Brownies, Buster Brown, Mickey Mouse, the Lone Ranger, Superman, Barbie. These are just some of the characters who've made a tremendous impact on our individual childhoods to distract us. They've brought us relief in times of trouble, like the Great Depression and World War II. Today, they help us escape the pressure and stress of our ordinary, everyday lives. But there's more to it than that. These characters have played a large and largely unrecognized role in our education. Batman comic books helped me to learn to read when I was 5 years old. Thanks, big guy. That experience fostered a lifelong love of reading. I had dreamed of creating this museum for almost 30 years, but where to build it? When I toured Camden Station for the first time in 2003, I realized I had finally found the home these characters so richly deserved. Abraham Lincoln passed through this building 4 times. When Babe Ruth left his boyhood home of Baltimore to play for the Boston Red Sox, he took a train from this very station. Today, the first floor houses Sports Legends at Camden Yards, a museum which chronicles the history of Maryland sports. If there is a more appropriate place to display the history of pop culture in America, I can't think of it. I've been called Baltimore's biggest cheerleader. Guilty as charged. Heck, I even bought the City magazine. I was born and raised in Little Italy, an ethnic neighborhood just across the Inner Harbor from here. I love this city and all of its spectacular attractions. From the National Aquarium and the Science Center, to the Walters Art Gallery and Museum of African American History and Culture, to the restaurants of Fells Point and Little Italy, Baltimore has something for everyone. I urge you to visit all of those places and experience everything this magnificent city has to offer. But first, I'd like you to take a trip with me in my time machine to discover or revisit all the wonderful characters, friends I call them, that have shaped our popular culture. And don't be afraid to say, hey, I had that when I was a kid. I do it all the time.
Hi, we are back here with Two Guys in a Comic Book. I'm your host, James Lewis.
And I'm Andy Hirschberger.
And we're back and we're going to discuss what's happening in the film industry with Marvel and DC Comics. Anybody who has been either watching television, be it animated cartoons or even audiobooks now, which both companies are putting out, and movies, have seen that there's a bit of a competition that's going on between Marvel and DC and who's going to dominate the market.
Well, I agree. I think the DC is so entrenched at this point. It's basically Marvel is having a renaissance, so to speak, cinematically. Mm-hmm. But I feel that DC just through history has the upper hand.
I would agree with you. I think Marvel made a lot of faux pas early on before they had really the money to do the type of productions that they needed to do. And I'm talking about stuff back in the 70s,
well,
you know.
Those Spider-Man movies were fun. And his Electric
Now, which
Company
one are
appearances.
you? Okay, are you talking about
The TV show.
From the 70s?
From the 70s.
The guy with the rope
Yeah.
on the side of the building
Lo-fi.
whose hands and feet never touched the surface.
Right.
But he was going up.
Yes, but
Yeah.
it was the 70s.
And they filmed it 3 miles back.
Right, and everybody
And all you
was,
saw was a little tiny Spider-Man on the building.
Yes, it was, but I was able to suspend my disbelief and appreciate it for what it was.
Because we were 12.
I was actually 3.5 and had just ingested lead.
I was 12.
Yes, but I still find that a lot of those films have a very strong narrative, and they still come off well to do.
They do.
And
Production value was
And
poor,
then,
but you know the technology didn't really exist back then to do the stuff that they did. But some of these things were very poorly written. You take any of the Captain America films that were done during that period of time, you know, the one where he had the plastic shield comes to mind.
Oh, yeah.
The motorcycle helmet that was his mask, and instead, just terrible. But I think you are absolutely correct. Marvel is having a renaissance, and for the life of me, I cannot understand what is DC's problem. They have missed opportunity after opportunity to expand on this revenue generating vehicle, and they are just missing out on the bus right now.
I think the bottom line is not that DC doesn't want to do this or DC couldn't do this. I think that DC has been around long enough to have licensed its characters off for certain intellectual properties to the point it's so fragmented, their lawyers are struggling to get the characters back in their pockets.
I don't think so. I think they've got the rights to those characters now, and you're starting to see them
I disagree
to
because
show up.
you can't get Batman on DVD because 20th Century Fox owns the rights to the television
That's
show.
the 60s.
No, but it still applies to the characters today. I mean, legally, from a legal standpoint, I believe DC does not yet have the rights.
DC is doing, but they just finished up the Batman trilogy.
Right.
Okay, so you're telling me that they could not come up with a movie?
No, they could. They just wouldn't be able to legally do all their characters because as Marvel is having the same problem where Spider-Man can't be in with the X-Men because Spider-Man is a Sony property and the X-Men is a different company's property. That's the same issue that DC is going
You've
through
got
today.
your big three right now.
Right.
Okay, you've got Batman.
Correct.
You've got Superman. We got a
Right.
Superman movie coming out in 2014.
Right.
What, in May?
Yes.
Okay. And we've got Wonder Woman, who's just sitting in limbo after the failed pilot.
They're working on that again.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you've got Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Okay, you only need 2 more members to have the Justice League. Take your pick. Okay, take your cards. Do you want a Hawkman? Do you want a Flash?
Well, we could
You know, you
conjecture
throw
as
down an
laymen.
Atom, I'll raise you a Aquaman. So
So are we talking about a Justice League movie here?
where is it?
Well, again, I think that DC has probably made some decisions that they can't have all their characters that they like, and they also probably wanted to see what Marvel is doing because it was more profitable to follow a company that's throwing itself out there
Absolutely,
to the wind.
absolutely idiotic.
Well,
Absolutely idiotic.
Well,
If
I mean,
I
the
was
studio had to make millions
if
of
I was a
dollars, but
CEO
that would
of
be millions.
If I was a CEO of Warner Brothers,
Okay.
who owns DC Comics,
Right.
all right, I would walk into the boardroom and I would have
Yeah.
everybody who is the head of my media
Yeah.
group that does this, and I would give them a pink slip.
And they would say, how much do you want us to lose during the lawsuits? And they would say, we'll be happy to do this.
Frickin' make it happen.
Yeah,
the
make it happen
Avengers is
doesn't
getting
work
the
in
Avengers.
legalese.
The Avengers is close to making $1 billion in revenue.
I think it already has grossed over $1 billion.
Then
It's the third highest
then
grossing
they
film of
need
all
to
time.
make it happen. The fans are cheering
Yeah,
for
the fans
this.
are there.
The fans are there. They need to be doing this.
And they're
They
working
had
on
the
it.
opportunity to make this happen almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Over 20 years ago, when the Tim Burton Batman came out,
Yeah.
and we had Keaton playing
Yeah.
Batman, and they brought a seriousness to the comic book film industry that had really been lacking prior to that. You know, most people's perception of Batman was the 60s TV show with Adam
was
West and Burt
excellent.
Ward. You know, bam, pow, boom. And I even heard people back then who went into the film came out and like, wow, you know, Robin wasn't in it, there was no holy this or holy that.
Yeah.
But it was based, of course, on The Dark Knight, the Frank Miller book. You know, The Dark Knight.
Is
They
that
wanted to,
based on the didn't
well, they wanted
get
a
that.
darker, serious Batman.
Right, but he wasn't
You know.
he wasn't the Frank
He
Miller.
wasn't the Frank
No,
Miller
no.
character, but that's when
I mean,
Frank Miller
Bale's
was
more like that, but
right.
not really.
But they wanted that darker character. They wanted that more serious.
They wanted
I'm
Charles
troubled.
Bronson in
I'm-
Michael Keaton's body.
Right. I'm
Which
troubled.
will never work.
Right. I've got issues. This is why I'm the Batman. But at that point in time, you know, they had the opportunity to start looking at, you know, well, where do we want to go with this? The first 2 movies were extremely successful and very profitable. And at that point in time, they should have been looking to expand. When Marvel started doing their first movies leading up to the Avengers, and that's with, you know, Iron Man and the Hulk and those things, and they started tying all these things together at the end, which was absolutely brilliant from a marketing standpoint.
They just went
Absolutely
with
brilliant.
The company's own a history where Stan Lee had all the comics interconnected.
Hmm.
So
And that's how it should be, because they all exist in the same universe.
well, Granted, but with movies, it's not the same as serialized television. You want a new person to come in and be able to get swept up and not be overwhelmed. And I'm not saying
But isn't that what happens all the time?
Not necessarily.
We've got a reboot of Spider-Man.
Yes, but that reboot of Spider-Man redid his origin story.
Briefly.
Yes, but
It
that's
wasn't.
enough.
It wasn't the total
I'm not
focus
asking
of
for
the
like
film.
a 3-hour epic reintroduction of the character with every moment. Of
And
his
we
life
didn't
in
want
there.
that.
Meta text with like little side vignettes.
Hmm.
Although I would like more British characters to play American superheroes.
Well, they seem to be dominating the cinema anyway
yeah,
right now,
I wish
but
there
still.
were better actors.
We're going to take a break,
Okay.
and we're going to be right back.
Well, if I was going to talk about DC, I would definitely not give them this Dalek, unless of course it would get me a job, because they got a lot of money. Maybe if I was a gopher. I would
Well, then I think I'm going to have to hand off the TARDIS to you.
Oh, okay. The
Okay.
Dalek's a little cooler.
And I'm going to take the Dalek because I think DC is doing a poor job. Now, that's not from a product standpoint.
Seems better on the inside.
I know it is.
Wow.
I love the product that DC is putting out. Love the Dark Knight Returns. I'm anxious to see Superman, but I'm speculating on exactly how good it's going to be. But I'm eagerly anticipating it. But I think that they can do a better job in creating the DC universe in the film industry. And I think Marvel is leap years ahead of them right now, and they're playing catch up.
Well, I think with the box office of the Dark Knight series would really disagree with that. But I would like to say that DC also has conquered television in a way that Marvel hasn't. DC's got Arrow, it's got Smallville, its animated series are excellent. I think that DC is just basically a powerhouse, and even though they haven't been able to deliver everything the fans want, the ball is rolling, it's just taking slower than people would like it to.
Well, the plans are in the work for a lot of the Marvel productions to actually hit the small screen. Right now, in early development, are plans for
We gotta wrap it up.
a Hulk series.
I'm awarding this to Marvel for their film series, but for their television series, nothing.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back talking about more industry news and what's going on today.
It started small. Then it went global. Gamers from North America coming together with gamers from all around the world, from all walks of life, getting together to play games for 24 hours and raise money to help cure sick kids. With all funds raised staying local with Children's Miracle Network hospitals and partner
So we were discussing the merits of Marvel and DC Comics on the big and small screen. We have a DC could be doing better. DC, I think, will be doing better. Both of us are in agreement that Marvel is doing exceptional on the large screen, but on the small screen, I tend to feel that DC is the dominant force.
Why?
Well, because DC has delivered some real top-notch, long-term entertainment, whether it be Batman the Animated Series, which I'm a huge fan of.
Okay.
Granted, it has ended. Smallville, which lasted 10 seasons.
I did.
And Arrow, which is getting nothing but praise. DC is just
Great show.
pulling out, and you are in agreement, pulling out these wonderful shows. And Marvel, for whatever reason, has not been delivering on the same level, if really at all. Maybe in the animated department, the direct-to-video films are good. I will give them that. But for live action, I don't see a lot from Marvel on the small screen, which makes me think maybe they could up their game a little bit. Because
Well-
America wants this, and Josh Whedon apparently is going to deliver it.
Well, there is a lot of talk about that, and I know that the other day when I was researching online, I was looking at Marvel Studios, and they have a lot of productions that are currently being planned.
Okay.
There's planned to come back to or bring back to the small screen the Hulk, which did so well for them back
that was
in,
an excellent
in the
show.
70s. There's also talk, and I believe it's in its final stages of being implemented, and to the point where I think they're actually casting now for a Shield show for television.
It would be a shame not to have Jackson involved in that.
At this point in time, it doesn't look like he's going to be involved with that. Again, I don't know the premise. I don't know the time frame. You know, is this happening current day? Did this happen, you know, maybe at the beginning of S.H.I.E.L.D. or, but supposedly, you know, someone from the movie will be affiliated with the TV series.
I actually heard this is in development for so long. Nick Fury is still being listed as being played by Charlton Heston.
Get it. Who is quite dead.
Yes. Dare you say?
He did have
He played
a
him
Nick
in-
Fury type
yes.
character in True Lies. Yes, yes,
James
that's
Cameron
true.
apparently was going to
Now,
direct this one.
from an animation standpoint, yeah, DC has done some very quality stuff with Young Justice, the direct to DVD movies that they've been doing
Yeah.
with, you know, Superman, World's Finest, even with the Dark Knight Returns.
Yes,
right
just
now.
part one just was
Just
released.
part one. But Marvel has done some good stuff there too, direct to DVD.
Both of them have been solid.
You know, the Thor, I'm sorry, the Hulk versus Thor, Hulk versus Wolverine, Avengers Next that they did straight to DVD. They've got some good stuff that's out too. And there's still talk about possibly doing another animated Black Panther show, even though the first one really didn't get much press here in the U.S.
I was hearing murmurs that they were actually going to try for a live action show or a movie.
Yeah, they had been throwing that around since I think Wesley Snipes was originally thought to be cast in it, but he can't do that. He's in prison right now. Plus, he's getting a little too old. But, you know, it's something that could come up. There's talk about a Luke Cage, Iron Fist movie coming out.
It would be very funny if Nick Cage could play the villain in that, considering where his last name came from.
I know. But he's already set to do, or associated with Ghost Rider.
Oh yeah, classics.
Okay, all right. Let's just put it out there. The Ghost Rider movies weren't that good. All right,
$100 million each, though. You can't argue with box office.
doesn't matter. Sucked.
So,
But anyway, I think Marvel being able to hit the small screen is going to be a lot easier, than DC trying to get that big box office.
well, I don't really know.
Group film.
Well,
But go ahead.
that may be the case, but DC has done a phenomenal job. The Dark Knight series again, tremendous box office success. Christopher Nolan has taken it in his unique dark mode, which has been proven very successful. For a superhero film, it garnered Heath Ledger an Academy Award for his portrayal of the Joker.
Oh, absolutely. Fantastic performance.
It was a performance. And then there was, of course, now we've got the Superman movie coming out, where fortunately Superman will be played by a British actor, so it'll be more true to the history of Superman. He's an alien from another planet called the United Kingdom, and he crashes in the South.
What are you looking for? 2013.
Let's see, 2013. I am probably very interested in the Superman movie. I think after Bryan Singer delivered his love letter to the original series, which could have only probably been pulled off if he could have actually CGI'd in Christopher Reeve in the lead, which would have been extremely offensive.
You think it was that bad?
I thought that it was very flat.
It was.
And it was
But was it his?
Yes, I'd agree.
Was it his fault or was it the script?
Well, wasn't he co-writer of the script? Bryan Singer? Isn't he a screenwriter?
Yeah.
So he would have had... I think a director can finesse a script, but a script cannot finesse a director.
Okay. All right. All right.
And I feel that it was indulgent, and that Kevin Spacey was a weak choice for Lex Luthor, and that Brandon Routh was a terrible choice for Superman.
Mhm.
I'm more of the feeling that Superman was best exemplified by not Christopher Reeve, who did an excellent job, by George Reeve. He is the Superman that I remember as a kid, a big guy.
Right.
And Superman seems to get more and more emaciated with each film.
Mhm.
I am sure, I know that's the aesthetics of the day, that
Mhm.
today's man is not like a burly, threatening person.
Mhm.
It's a latte server at Starbucks
Right.
who is had one sandwich shy of being skinny.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I am eagerly awaiting the movie, but I'm very apprehensive about what I might see. In other words, I'm not excited. You know, when Iron Man was going to come out, I was excited. You
Yeah.
know, any of the Marvel, even when Christopher,
Lee? Reeve?
no, from Batman.
Christopher Nolan?
No.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale was cast to play Batman, and they were going to redo, the Batman movie. I was excited. I said, American Psycho is going to be Batman. Great. This, I don't know. I want it. I want a good movie. I'm hoping it'll be great, but I just don't know. It's a big question mark there for me.
But there's something thrilling about this, as opposed to Batman, which had Christian Bale, who was, for many people, exactly that character in American Psycho.
Mhm.
So you had like something to get into. This Superman is actually daring you to discover somebody new.
Mhm.
And it may be actually both aesthetically or pleasing to certain audience members to have that questioning, and detrimental box office to have that. But we've got him, and then we're hiding in the background our superstars of Russell Crowe and Kevin Costner, who look like they together could have had Superman, so it perfectly matches. But actually, I think the thing I'm worried about is I saw Watchmen,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the book, and I felt Zack Snyder might have wanted to put some flavor into it rather than just kind of rotely go through each page. I'm not really impressed with him as a director,
Oh
so
my
that
goodness!
worries me.
We're not even going to touch on Watchmen today because that would be a whole show onto itself.
Are you a fan or do you not?
I did not like the movie. I thought it was.
Well, we're in agreement there.
We are in agreement. I'm going to tell you, before I die, I want those 3 hours back from the Watchmen. I really do.
Hopefully they won't give them back to you to rewatch The Watchmen. So the other day I was walking home when it comes to The Watchmen, and I saw a cute bird get hit by a car. I would rather relive that every day of my life than sit through The Watchmen again.
Well, I think
And
that we
it was
are.
a very cute bird, and I'm not a sicko who likes to see birds.
Then I think we are both in agreement that the Watchmen gets.
You would make a good Dalek.
It wouldn't make a good Dalek. It would make a great coaster. They're $5. Yes.
Exterminate!
I'm nuts about downtown Baltimore's West Side. Hello, I'm John Waters, and I'm proud to say that Baltimore has always been my home. It's the inspiration behind all my films, including Hairspray, Crybaby, Serial Mom, and A Dirty Shame. Let me tell you, there are not a more eccentric, monumental, eclectic, intriguing, and character-filled 28 blocks anywhere in the world, and I'm here to prove it to you. As if just to add mystery and intrigue sits the gravesite of Edgar Allan Poe, my kind of guy. Sometimes I go there to meditate. Infectious, fashionable, full of vim and Baltimore vigor, I walk the West Side streets these days in amazement at what it's become. I'm nuts about downtown Baltimore's West Side. You will be, too.
Hi, I'm Steve Jeppy, and I'd like to welcome you to Jeppy's Entertainment Museum. In 1974, I quit my job as a letter carrier at the U.S. Postal Service and opened a small comic book store in the basement of a TV repair shop. Little did I realize that from that humble beginning would grow this incredible pop culture collection you see here today. At the center of that collection is the comic character. Why are these characters so important to us? Perhaps it is their power to distract us. They've brought us relief in times of trouble, like the Great Depression and World War II. Today, they help us escape the pressure and stress of our ordinary, everyday lives. But there's more to it than that. These characters have played a large and largely unrecognized role in our education. Batman comic books helped me to learn to read when I was 5 years old. Thanks, big guy. That experience fostered a lifelong love of reading. I had dreamed of creating this museum for almost 30 years, but where to build it? When I toured Camden Station for the first time in 2003, I realized I had finally found the home these characters so richly deserved. Abraham Lincoln passed through this building 4 times. When Babe Ruth left his boyhood home of Baltimore to play for the Boston Red Sox, he took a train from this very station. Today, the first floor houses sports legends at Camden Yards, a museum which chronicles the history of Maryland sports. If there is a more appropriate place to display the history of pop culture in America, I can't think of it. I've been called Baltimore's biggest cheerleader. Guilty as charged. Heck, I even bought the City magazine. I was born and raised in Little Italy, an ethnic neighborhood just across the Inner Harbor from here. I love this city and all of its spectacular attractions. From the National Aquarium and the Science Center, to the Walters Art Gallery and Museum of African American History and Culture, to the restaurants of Fells Point and Little Italy, Baltimore has something for everyone. I urge you to visit all of those places and experience everything this magnificent city has to offer. But first, I'd like you to take a trip with me in my time machine to discover or revisit all the wonderful characters, friends I call them, that have shaped our popular culture. And don't be afraid to say, hey, I had that when I was a kid. I do it all the time.
Tune in next time and we will have more exciting topics discussing comic books and things that are happening comic book related.
Just in case you didn't know, all the items featured today in Two Guys in a Comic Book are available at
You
the
would make a good Dalek.
You Would Make a Good Dalek store in England, but in the United States you can come to Jeppy's Comic World, the Jeppy's Entertainment Museum, and acquire delightful objects like this.
Right here in Baltimore, Maryland, Camden Yards.
Camden Yards, Camden Station, 2nd floor.